If you think about it carefully, the entire multiversal mess in the Marvel Cinematic Universe really kicked off with Avengers Endgame. You might say, no, bro, this all started after the sacred timeline was ruined. But think again, how did the sacred timeline get ruined in the first place? It only became possible because the Avengers went back in time in Endgame. Tony went to steal the Tesseract, Loki escaped with it, TVA nabbed that Loki, he met He Who Remains with his variant Sylvie, and then He Who Remains was killed, leading to branches on the sacred timeline. Eventually, this very Loki had to hold those branches together, so the whole multiversal mess was triggered by Endgame's time travel. Recently, reports suggest Marvel is heading down the incursion path to showcase the collapse of the multiverse. The Russo brothers have already said Avengers Doomsday connects back to Endgame. In the comics, an incursion means one universe collides with another at an incursion point, usually Earth, and both are destroyed. That's the same description Reed Richards gave in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, where he explained the incursion was triggered by Earth 616's Doctor Strange entering Universe 838. Looked at this way, there's no doubt a massive incursion is coming in the MCU, because similar triggers have been planted across the Multiverse Saga ever since Endgame, and this video is exactly about those. Trigger 1. Captain America's choice to stay in the past. Let's start with Captain America's decision. After the Battle of Earth, he went to return the Infinity Stones so no alternate timeline would form. But after placing each stone back, instead of returning to his current timeline, he chose to settle down with Peggy Carter around the 1950s. It felt great in the moment. Cap finally got his last ends and the life every soldier dreams of, but if you rewatch that scene now, it looks like a potential incursion point. Because staying in the past with Peggy means two Steve Rogers exist in the same timeline. One frozen in ice who wakes in 2011, and another living a quiet life with Peggy since 1949, growing old alongside her. That creates a paradox. Even if Steve kept a low profile, the fact remains, having two variants of the same person in one universe breaks the rules, and that's where an incursion gets triggered. Some people argue Steve created a new timeline in the past, and when he returned as an old man with a shield, that shield belonged to another timeline. The shield he handed to Sam Wilson clearly looks different from the original, and Thanos had shattered the original anyway, so old Cap's shield wasn't the old one. It was a new one. If we accept that old Steve brought an object, the shield, from another timeline into the main one, that too triggers an incursion. And remember, Marvel has left what happened after that scene open. We don't know if old Steve is alive, dead, or returned to his branch timeline. If he stayed in the main timeline, incursion risk. If he left after handing off the shield, still an incursion trigger. So, Cap went to return the stones, stayed in the past, created a branch, brought a shield from that timeline into the main Earth, and whether he remained or went back, either route triggers an incursion. Trigger 2, Monica Rambeau's universe jump. The next big incursion point comes from Monica Rambeau, who ended up in another timeline at the end of the Marvels, the X-Men universe. The problem? Her Earth 616 temporal aura was cut off. Mr. Fantastic had put it simply. When you go to another universe, you leave a footprint that triggers incursions, which means Monica arriving in the X-Men universe is also a trigger. Trigger 3. Doctor Strange, the Darkhold, and dreamwalking. It was a strange variant that first introduced us to incursions in Multiverse of Madness. That movie showed us what Earth looks like after an incursion, and our Doctor Strange also used the Darkhold to dreamwalk into a dead body. The incursion got triggered, but instead of Earth taking the hit, the impact landed on the dark dimension. That's why Clea appeared, hunting Strange down. If he made the mess, he has to clean it up. I'll take a neutral stance here because we can't dump every bill on Strange alone. Trigger 4, Wanda dreamwalking. First on the main Earth, Wanda was the first to dreamwalk. Using it, her connection wasn't limited to a single timeline. Proof? In Multiverse of Madness, she took control of Universe 838's Wanda and wiped out the Illuminati. You might say that shouldn't matter much, but when a major threat hits Earth 838, there'll be no Illuminati to handle it, meaning that universe is doomed, whether naturally or via incursion. Trigger 5. Spider-Man, No Way Home's spell gone wrong. Dreamwalking isn't the only way to trigger incursions. In Spider-Man, No Way Home, Peter's personal issues pushed him to ask Doctor Strange for help. The spell to make everyone forget went wrong and opened a door for other universes into the main timeline. Maguire's Spider-Man, Garfield's Spider-Man, and their villains showed up on Earth 616, right before their death. Strange did send them all back later, but that spell caused other messes. Adrian Toomes, Vulture, ended up in a different universe, and a fragment of Venom's symbiote got left behind in this one. That tells us Spider-Man also has a serious hand in triggering incursions. Trigger 6. Gamora, the overlooked catalyst. The biggest incursion trigger almost no one talks about is Gamora. The original Gamora died for the Soul Stone. Her death was a fixed point on the timeline, but because of the Endgame time heist, 2014's Gamora came to the future and is now permanently living in the main timeline. It's similar to the Captain America case, but with a key difference. In Cap's case, 2 Steves were alive. In Gamora's case, 1 is already dead. The Soul Stone exchange rule had already been locked with a sacrifice. This displacement created a huge cosmic imbalance, which means every second that 2014 Gamora continues to exist in the main timeline, Earth's incursion risk accelerates. Trigger 7. Loki, free will, and a dangerous balance. No MCU list is complete without Loki. At the end of Loki Season 2, the sacred timeline was about to collapse and the temporal loom was overloading. Branches were disintegrating. Loki then did what no one expected. He sacrificed his freedom so that everyone across the multiverse could have free will. He became the custodian of the multiverse. He now holds the multiverse like a tree, very much like Yggdrasil from Norse mythology, with every branch under his grasp. Sounds heroic, but there's a dangerous angle. When everything was under He Who Remains, there was no free will. No one could go rogue, and if anyone did, He Who Remains would prune them and their timeline, eliminating incursion possibilities at the root. Now that everything is under Loki and everyone has free will, there's no tight control, and incursions keep getting triggered. Maybe that's why, in Doomsday, Doctor Doom is after Loki, because his choice is causing multiversal chaos. Deadpool Wolverine. Proof the rules have changed. In fact, you can see how much the rules have shifted since Loki took over by looking at Deadpool Wolverine. Deadpool brought a Wolverine from another universe to stabilize his own universe, something that wasn't possible before. Also, I don't think Deadpool's universe will hold for long because we saw X-23 there, who came from the void. By the basic rules of incursions, his universe is also marching toward an incursion. That's why Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool, shared that Avengers A logo on Instagram, hinting he may appear in Avengers Doomsday or in Secret Wars. Besides, that movie introduced the concept of anchor beings, which, per early plans, could play an important role in triggering incursions. This tells us the scale of conflict we're going to see in Avengers Doomsday. Where this is headed. In any story, time travel is like a cheat code, and cheat codes come with drawbacks. In the MCU, the entire multiverse is on a path to destruction, and the Avengers will have to face Doctor Doom. At the same time, they'll need to fix the old time travel messes to save their multiverse, and if they can't save it, then at least avenge it. Now you tell me, what's your take on all these trigger points? In your view, how big a blunder was Steve Rogers staying in the past, or was He Who Remains right about free will? Let's talk about all this in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.